cloud or whatever, but it's going to the cloud. All right. So welcome everybody for Go for the Gut. I am so incredibly excited about doing this because it is part of a passion project. So you guys are the first ones who get to hear it. We'll be doing it on Monday, the 11th as well. But I'm just thrilled to have you guys all here. Welcome, Amy. I'm just thrilled to have everybody here, and you guys are all friends who I know, so this is just even better. So first things first, to kind of get it out of the way, there is a little bit of a medical disclaimer that I need to share. And so I am a board certified functional nutrition counselor and health and life coach. I am not a medical doctor. And the information contained within the presentation is for informational purposes only and does not provide healthcare, mental, or medical health services. It does not diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, condition, or other physical or mental ailment of the body. It is not to be used as replacement or substitute for medical advice provided by physicians and or trained medical professionals. If you are under the care of a medical professional or are currently using prescription medications, you should discuss any dietary changes or potential dietary supplement use with your doctor, and should not discontinue any prescription medications first without consulting your doctor. So the other thing is the way that we're going to work with the chat is that, or for questions rather, is please go ahead and put your questions into the chat if you have some during the presentation. And then if you can stick around after the 30 minutes, we'll be doing live chat on air, and I'll also be answering all of the questions that were asked during the presentation. Onward. So the first thing I just kind of wanted to share with you is a little bit about me. There is me with my license plate. And it is truly my license plate, Funk Nut. But I kind of wanted to share first with you a story. And I really like this story. And I think it's really, it matches well with what we're going to be talking about today, because what we're really talking about is making sure that we are feeling well and that we're getting all the information that we need in order to feel our best. So the story is all about what we call the eureka effect. So that's when suddenly the thing or the answer that you have been searching for appears. So when you take a shower, when you drive your car, when you're taking a walk, it takes you out of the analytical part of your brain and allows the engine in your magical, metaphoric part of your brain to start cranking. And so this process is famous for making solutions pop into consciousness fully formed, which is the phenomenon that psychologists call the eureka effect. And supposedly, the Greek mathematician Archimedes experienced it while taking a bath to relax after a hard day pondering how to calculate the mass of an irregular object. And so as he lowered himself into the water, the story goes, the solution hit Archimedes like a wet sponge. Wait, a body immersed in water displaces water equal to its mass. He jumped up and ran around Athens buck naked, shouting Eureka, which is Greek for I found it. And that's what I hope that you get, is I hope you get something where you can say, I found it, or it makes sense, or whoa, light bulb moment, something like that. So the point of sharing this story with you is that, as I just mentioned, I wish for you your own eureka moment, either during or potentially after this presentation, because it might be while you're taking a bath or a shower or whatever it is that you're doing that takes you out of that conscious thinking. And my very own eureka moment came years ago when I realized that my purpose was to help others ponder through the puzzles that puzzle them about their health. And that's really what I've realized is important for me. So my passion is for helping, insight, using intuition, working alongside of you, walking alongside of you helping you figure out what is important for you and your health and to make whatever transformation that you need to make. One of the things that I feel very, very strongly about is everybody is unique. Everybody has bioindividuality, and you will see this tenfold when we go through the case study. And the other big piece that I've been learning more and more and more is that part of the difference between allopathic medicine and us and functional medicine, or looking at things from a different perspective, is you are not your test result numbers. You are understood by your symptoms, what your body is sharing, and then also what may show up on a test. But it's definitely not your test result numbers. And so the other big piece I wanted to share with you is I am not selling anything today. So you do not need to wait for the sales shoe to drop. There won't be a sales shoe dropping, but I will be inviting those of you who feel connected to the information, who might resonate with some of it, to do a no-cost discovery session with me so that we can look at your unique situation and find out what needs you might have at that time while we do the discovery session. So the other piece that's important to mention here is that the person who gave me the permission to share her case has done so to help others see if it's going to help them with their wellness journey. And so I have named her kind person because even though she's anonymous, this is something that is, it's going to be out there for everybody to see. And it's, I think, really important to acknowledge how kind she was that she's allowing us to use this information. So the other big thing is I am on a mission, and that mission is to help you to transform your health your way for the long term by focusing on root cause resolution for clarity and small steps to help you make change long-lasting and permanent. So root cause resolution. Think about how your digestive system is the root to all of your other systems. So your body systems. So think about the immune system connection. 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your digestive system. Your nervous system connection, which is really coming out these days. People are talking about the gut-brain connection. So if digestion isn't working well, then every other area in your body, every other cell is affected by however that digestive system is working. And so this is why I'm really passionate about sharing root cause resolution, because I feel like it's the most valuable thing that I can share with you. So when we work on the root cause, you can take the time that you need to heal and actually alleviate a lot of frustration, resources like time and money, instead of looking to a quick fix over and over again, because the quick fix isn't sustainable, nor is it addressing the root cause for any kind of long-term resolution. So root cause resolution and digging for it is a defining difference between working functionally and the allopathic model. And we're going to ask the question why. So why is that? So I'm going to share some wise words with you from a woman named Dr. Kelly Halderman. And she worked with a gentleman named Dr. Eric Balkavage, and he is a functional medicine doctor and also a chiropractor. And she came to him as a medical doctor because her thyroid issues were not being addressed, and she was having all kinds of issues with her thyroid. And even being a doctor herself, she wasn't able to figure out what was going on. She wasn't able to be well. And it got to the point where she sought out the help from Dr. Eric. And in working with Dr. Eric, he worked on with root cause resolution, specifically with her digestive system first, which she didn't even look at because she was looking at numbers. She was looking specifically at TSH and free T4 not important information for you to know, but those were the numbers that she was looking at, and that wasn't getting her the answers that she needed. And Dr. Eric carried her through more of a functional approach, looking at root cause. And so because of that, she became very passionate as an allopathic doctor to help her clients achieve wellness also in this way. And so she's basically teamed up with Dr. Eric now. But here's what she said about root cause. She said, allopathic doctors are not trained to ask why. And then even if they knew the answer, they are not trained to pay, they're not trained or paid to fix it. And it's not their fault. So I am definitely not poo-pooing on doctors in the medical system. What I am poo-pooing on is the healthcare model, and that needs an upgrade. It needs a true upgrade. So as we said, the doctor's not to blame. The model needs the upgrade. So I wanted to share some statistics on the amount of prescription medication used in the United States, and this speaks to the healthcare model. So in a recent study from the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, nearly 3 in 5 American adults are taking a prescription drug, and that's pretty darn high. What's worse is that this number keeps getting higher. So the same study found that the prescription medication use had risen from 51 to 59% when comparing use in 2000 to 2012. And during the same period, the percentage of people taking 5 or more prescription drugs doubled from 8 to 15%. So you heard that right. 5 or more prescription drugs, and then it doubled. Now, you might have caught on. I said 2000 to 2012. We're in 2023. So I couldn't find the numbers for 2023, but I got to tell you, I'm kind of afraid to hear what the numbers might be. But again, this points to the model that needs some attention. So I could go on and on about this, but to keep us on time, it's enough said about this. You get the point. And our case study is going to share some more of these eye-opening issues about the model with you. So when I shared on however you got to this presentation, I shared with you, we talk about why, how, and what in regards to all of those symptoms that I shared in my little snippet that I shared with you. So we want to find out what's going on in there. We need to know what's important to pay attention to for you specifically. And what we see a lot of is we see a lot of people doing and following trends. So I'm going to use social media as an example. People are putting all kinds of things on social media. So things about supplements, things about dietary changes, things about diets that are restrictive, things about certain plant things like lectins that are poison to us. And that's all fine and good, but those are all very generalized. And if you end up just following some of those trends, then you aren't targeting your bio-individuality, your uniqueness, and your unique needs. And sometimes it works for you, being able to just do that broad overview of healing for you. But a lot of times it doesn't. And a lot of times what happens is it's not sustainable. So you see this information, like I mentioned, in social media, you see it on commercials, you see it in the doctor's office. And trends don't take into account any of the influences from other factors that are contributing to your feeling of unwell. So lifestyle factors, nutrition factors, there's a lot of other factors that play into this. So are you guys ready? Give me a head nod. All right, awesome. Here we go. So I'm going to show you this GI map test, and I'm going to share Kind Person with you. So it is vitally important for me to share who she is and what her symptoms are and were, and also what her diagnoses were from her doctor, not from me. Remember that medical disclaimer, I am not a medical doctor. So who she is. So She's a female in her 50s. She's postmenopausal. She's had lifetime gut issues. She has high stress. She's had several surgeries and traumas. She has food sensitivities. She has restless leg syndrome. She has joint pain. She has alternating constipation and diarrhea. She has gas. She has abdominal pain. She has anxiety. She has brain fog. She has trouble word finding. She has sleep issues. She has had lots and lots and lots of testing done. And she also has a lot of menopausal symptoms, related symptoms like hot flash, loss of libido, dry skin. She also has autoimmune issues. She has Raynaud's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. And she was diagnosed with everything when she came to somebody about this in the 90s with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So during menopause, she gained weight, and now she has resistant weight loss, along with periodic bloating, in addition to all the other symptoms that I shared, because even though she's been working on this since the 90s, it's not getting better. So her current diagnosis is IBD, irritable bowel disease, and menopause. The treatment that she currently was given was to avoid the foods that she's sensitive to, and that she's just getting older, so she's just got to accept the menopause symptoms and things like that, and that nothing more medically can be done. Like there's no more medical tests or anything that can be done. She is frustrated. She's defeated. She's angry. She's still seeking answers. Can you relate to any of these things that I have shared down here? If you can't relate, can you relate? Do you know somebody who can relate to some of these things? It might not be all of them, and I wouldn't think it would be all of them, but can you relate or know somebody who relates to some of these things? These things are frighteningly common, actually, and they're not normal. They're not normal. So let's talk about what's going on in there. So first off, what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to share with you a brief overview of what this GI map test means and what it says. I hope that you can see it well enough. You do not need to see the numbers per se as like detailed. I'm not going to ask you to become a GI map interpreter today. The GI map here is 5 pages long, so we're going to go page by page through it. And I'm going to share what is important on each page. So page number 1, this page looks really good. So she doesn't have any bacterial pathogens. She doesn't have any parasitic or viral pathogens. And DL, this result, so we're going to look at what we're looking at, the result, and the reference range. So the result is all less than DL, which is detectable limit. So all of this looks really good. Here's where things get a little more interesting. So we're not going to look at all of the things that are on this page. We're only going to look at 2 of them. We're going to look at the H. pylori, and we're also going to look at this bacterial phyla. Now, one thing I want to mention about this phyla down here is these are good bacteria. These are what are called commensal and keystone bacteria. These are the ones we want in our gut. And you've heard about probiotics. You might have heard about them, and you might have heard about bifido and lactobacillus and all of those kind of bacteria. They end up here. So we've got bifidobacterium, we've got lactobacillus, we've got Akkermansia. That one's been kind of coming in the news a little bit more. But you'll see that these are really high. And what this means is that, again, we're going to talk more about it in a minute, but it's not always about more is better. So I want to make that really clear. So as I mentioned, we're only going to look at 2 of these. So when we look at these keystones, most everything is in the green, and that means that she's hitting her diet well and she's making a really good effort. So all the things that she's been doing before she did this test have really been helping her, and her gut is really doing well in that area. But now let's pay attention here to this Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori as we call it. So that result, you don't need to be a mathematician, but that result is about 140 units away from being out of range, reference range. And so we look at this as a high normal. And so because of that, we're going to take a really good peek at it, because remember, we're being puzzle detectives right now, and we want to know what's going on in there. And so symptoms associated with H. pylori can be gas, bloating, any other GI symptoms, anxiety, insomnia, prostate issues in males, and reproductive organ issues in females. So heavy periods, painful periods, PCOS, all the things we can think about. There are also times where some people don't see any symptoms with H. pylori because 50% of the population has H. pylori in their system, but it's not close to this marker here. It's not high. So we want to start to piece together whether or not we even need to be concerned about this H. pylori high normal result. So I'm going to start sleuthing and looking and taking this puzzle apart. So magnesium is an anti-anxiety mineral. Remember, she has anxiety. And in order to be able to absorb it, you need a good level of stomach acid in your stomach. If you have H. pylori in high numbers, it can be suppressing the stomach acid, and therefore you might not be able to absorb that magnesium that you're so dutifully taking either by supplementation or either by food. And now you can be experiencing some of the things like anxiousness, restless legs, especially muscle cramping, and more things. The next thing is joint pain. So she has joint pain. And when you have joint pain, you can also have osteopenia or osteoporosis. And with H. pylori, again, because you can't absorb many minerals when your stomach acid is low, that includes calcium. So if you have a calcium and a magnesium deficiency, even though you are dutifully doing everything you're supposed to be doing, but if your stomach acid is low because of this H. pylori, now your body can't absorb it. And so now you might be having osteopenia, osteoporosis, and you're going, why? And so is your doctor. Your doctor might be asking the same question. So because of the low hydrochloric acid from H. pylori, we also see lots of bacteria in the gut. Let's move down here. Too much bacteria. So because of the low HCl, the food in the stomach and the gut is not being broken down properly and digested properly. And so these bacteria love to eat that undigested food. And so when they do that, they multiply even more. Now, remember, these guys are good guys. We want them, but we don't want that many of them. There's too many of them. So now we have the potential for something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That can become a huge issue, even when it's with good keystone commensal bacteria. So there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, as I talked about. So further on in the test, I believe it's page 4, we're going to look at something called elasticin 1, and that is an enzyme marker. And we're going to look at that for excessive fermentation to see what's happening with the digestive enzymes due to this specific overgrowth of this bacteria. So we'll keep that in mind. So page 3 of the test. And I meant to say too, we're not necessarily looking to kill the overgrowth of these good bacteria. More so, we're looking at root cause. So we're looking to understand why there's that overgrowth in the first place. And this gives us the clues as to, is this a bigger upstream issue? So like what's actually happening upstream in order for these bacteria to multiply so much. So now page 3, now we have what's called opportunistic overgrowth microbes. These are not the ones we want. Fungi and yeast and viruses, same thing. We don't want them. We don't want them in there. Now, I have highlighted and read all the ones that I would be looking at as a functional nutritionist and going, what's going on in there? Or actually, I would be taking my poo pen and I would say, what's going on in there? Because because even though they're not, there's one of them that's high and out of the reference range, there's a lot of clues that are going on here with a lot of these. So we have more undigested food clues with all of these. So there's several bacteria here, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, I'm not good at the pronunciation, and Klebsiella pneumoniae especially. Those love undigested protein and amino acids. Klebsiella also loves starch. So our kind person stated with me that when she eats low starch foods, she feels better. So this could be linked to the decrease in Klebsiella overgrowth and the effects that that has when she eats low starch. So that was a clue. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to do this test. So let's talk about weight gain and weight loss resistance. This is a huge deal. So many of these bacteria on this page contribute to this, and here's how. The first thing is inflammation. So inflammation is a key driver for weight loss issues or for weight issues, whether it's gain, whether it's weight loss, or whether it's weight loss resistance. So the inflammation clues that I have here are that 3 of these bacteria are nasty, nasty pro-inflammatory bacteria. The Pseudomonas, the Klebsiella, and now the Citrobacter fruini. These all have something called LPS, and that's lipopolysaccharides, and they will trigger inflammation. So you don't need to know all of the details here that I'm sharing. Just realize that now we have a much better idea of what's going on in there, which is really important because she's already doing all the things, really well with her nutrition and lifestyle, which we saw on page 2. The other big thing for weight loss and weight gain and these bacteria is that bloating, gas, anxiety are also symptoms tied to the results on a lot of the bacteria that we've already talked about here on this page. So now let's kind of dig a little deeper into inflammation. Let's talk about histamine producers. And these are 3 nasties that produce histamine. And the way that they do that is they actually activate a white blood cell called a mast cell in our bodies. You already know H. pylori, that's one of them. The other one is streptococcus, and that's the high one for kind person here. And the last one is that Enterococcus faecalis. So when we have high histamine, high mast cell production, high histamine, we have we have a pro-inflammatory dump into the gut. And that histamine overload symptomology causes gas, bloating, anxiety, insomnia, constipation, diarrhea. It also contributes to what we have all heard about, leaky gut. So if you've never heard about leaky gut, I encourage you to Google it and just see what it's like. But it's basically that protective barrier in your whole digestive system is compromised. And so things that shouldn't be getting in do get in. Things that shouldn't be getting out do get out. I'm going to be doing a whole thing on leaky gut at one point, so that's why I'm not going to get into it. But now we have a lot more clarity about why our kind person feels the way that she does. The good news is she doesn't have any of the fungi, yeast, or viruses, which is fantastic. And so we look at all of this, and I have to ask you guys the question in the chat. Are there any eureka moments happening yet at this time? I'm going to open up the chat here. Any eureka moments? Awesome, tons. Okay, I'll take tons. I'll take it. Okay, so we're going to go page 4. So with page 4, again, hooray, hooray, she doesn't have any protozoa, she doesn't have any worms, so she doesn't have any parasites. And we were wondering about that because kind person did share with us that she is an international, I was going to say a multi-country, international traveler. So that's really, really good that she hasn't got anything in there that's causing an issue. But remember, we were going to look at this elastase 1 marker. And so it's low. So what this means is she's not producing enough digestive enzymes to break down her food well, any of the macros. So proteins, carbohydrates, fats. And therefore, there's more undigested food for all those commensal keystone bacteria to eat and overmultiply. And we've been able to back up the fact that her digestive system and her digestive process isn't really working well. Now, I'm going to come to poo. Poo is very, very, very important. I asked her about her poo. And in her poo, she didn't see any undigested things. So she said, no, poo looks good. So this was another reason why we did this, because we wanted to know, well, shoot, if poo looks good and she doesn't have undigested things in her poo, what's going on in there? So now we have, again, clear information. There is a lot going on in there, and she's got a lot of undigested things going on. So now you can also see this steatocrit, which I've highlighted. It's in the normal range, but it's moving up. It's in the yellow range. And this is a test for fat malabsorption, which she has. So she also has suppressed gut immunity, which we can see in this low secretory IgA response. That's an immune response. And this fits really well with what she told me about high stress lifestyle, which creates and contributes to our old friend H. pylori if you have high stress. Remember what happens with our digestive system in high stress. We don't have as much stomach acid. We end up basically taking things away from our digestive process because we're trying to deal with the stress. So this all fits in really well with her high pylori, H. pylori levels, her immune issues, and her digestive challenges. So, page 5, our last page. Finally, we get to see that she has some antibiotic resistance as well. And this is going to be really helpful if she chooses to treat this allopathically with conventional medicine and antibiotics. We, from a functional perspective, treat these things from an herbal side. So we look at things like, believe it or not, I brought a couple of them here. Cinnamon. Ooh, cinnamon. Thyme. Clove. I never know where the camera is. Clove. Oregano. There are many other things that we use to treat this with.
The camera wasn't on you, Anka.
What's that?
You were sharing your
Oh,
your
sorry.
screen.
That's right. Okay. Thank you. Never mind. So I was just showing you little bottles of the things. But so these different herbs are things that we are using to help with treating this. There are many other things that we also use that come from a natural toolkit, if you will. We started treating kind person with a very specific probiotic, S. boulardii, Saccharomyces boulardii, which is helping her to build up the bacteria that she needs in order to combat H. pylori. We also shared with her, I also shared with her, she is on oregano, she is on thyme, and she is on berberine as well. And so those things are helping clear her gut of all of the nasties that we saw on page 3. So all of those things are being taken care of. as well as the H. pylori. The other big thing that we looked at is, do we want to have her taking some kind of a hydrochloric acid tablet, or do we want to just start with something a lot less, I guess I want to say big or invasive. And so we had her start with apple cider vinegar once or twice a day whenever she eats a higher protein meal, because remember, those bacteria really like those protein and amino acids. So we've got her taking apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon in about 1/4 cup of water, and it's made a huge difference. So she hasn't stepped on the scale. Kind person does not like a scale, and I don't like a scale either, nor do I like BMI. But kind person has been able to get back into her clothing that she hasn't been able to get back into for years, since the 90s. So she's 2 sizes down in her clothing. She attributes that more to the loss of the bloat, and she's seeing very slowly the weight coming, the belly fat coming off of her resistant weight loss. And she's been doing this since mid-July. And this is what prompted me to share all of this with you, because I felt like this is even though kind person has a lot of things going on, I think we all know people like kind person, and how frustrated they are and how angry they are. So, sorry, I got off track there a little bit. So how might these symptoms be affecting you? Well, we've talked about this throughout the presentation, throughout looking at the GI map. Remember that H. pylori and all that low stomach acid and all the things associated with that. Now you're starting to get some answers to some of the long asked and unanswered questions. And along with your symptoms and becoming a detective for all of the things that you've already done and how your body responds, you now have an additional powerful tool, the GI map, for example, that can help you to really understand what's going on in there, especially if you're stuck. So remember how I talked about digestive system is affecting all the other systems. How do you think what you've learned right now is affecting things like blood sugar, thyroid function, liver function, cancer, other degenerative diseases, other symptoms like cravings? These are all tied to what we just talked about. And all of these things, symptom-wise, also start to abate and go away. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. So what can you do about it? Now we're at the what. I've shared with you the GI map test and the proposed treatment plan that we are to propose, the actual treatment plan that we're doing with kind person. So again, I want you to know that there's an allopathic or a conventional way to treat and a natural approach. So just to kind of reiterate, in this case, we want to restore the stomach acid to take care of the H. pylori in the stomach, and then clear out the dysbiosis with some broad spectrum antimicrobial herbs. And those are the ones that I mentioned to you. We want to look at the person's diet and adjust anything there that's needed. Do they need a temporary low starch diet to support the inflammation issue? That might be something. That is actually something that we're doing right now with kind person. And then look at the person's lifestyle and adjust things as needed. So remember, kind person is really high stress. So we want to make sure that her stress response and her stressors are shifted. We want to look at her movement patterns. We want to look at her sleep hygiene. All of these things contribute to this dysbiosis. And then we might want to retest this GI map test. But if the symptomology is going really well and we don't need to deal with things anymore because the symptoms are going away, then we might not choose to retest, because I'm going to be very transparent. This test is between $360 and $420. And then you need somebody like myself to interpret it. So it's not a cheap thing to do, but again, if you think about all the time and money and effort you spend on trendy things that aren't unique to you, it might just be the ticket that you need in order to move forward. So remember that digestive health is the domino that starts everything. And so that's why we want to start with the digestive system, or at least take a really, really good look at it every time we are moving forward. So I'm going to go through this slide and then we're going to get to our live Q&A. But if this resonates with you, what I encourage you to do is to do a discovery session with me. And I will go ahead here and let's see if I can. I don't think I can. Whoops. Nope, I can't. Never mind. I was going to copy the link in the chat, but I can't do that. So the discovery session is complimentary and it allows us to look at your unique, specific things that you might need. It allows us to discuss your poo. It allows us to discuss your sleep and some other things as well. And so those are very, very important in being able to determine whether or not it's a good idea to work together or not. If you can't find, when you get to the discovery session and use that link, and you can't find a good time on the scheduler, please email me. I have time blocked off oftentimes so that I can get certain things done for certain clients, but I can squeeze an appointment in there. I am going to be doing, for people who are new to me and they're doing the discovery session, I am going to be doing a special discounted offer that's going to include the GI map test. Again, if we feel it's necessary, I don't do anything carte blanche. And then little freebie that I have for you is I do have Your Path to Wellness, which is explaining information about what your healing state is, how to get really good resilience in your wellness, and then how to get to your target goal. That's all in there. And then finally, always look at my website. There's a lot of information on there, and I'm constantly updating it. And I will be actually sharing this event also on the website for people to watch for the next 30 days. So we are done, and we are at the Q&A, and I want to thank you all for being here. If you can't stay, I understand that. Thank you very much. If you have no questions, no worries either. I would love to invite you to go off of mute and just kind of share with me, what kind of eureka moments, if any, did you have? And I definitely want to, I need to get back here to my chat. Awesome. I'm glad you guys have been learning a lot. And are there any questions on the chat? Nope, no questions on the chat. So if you have a question and you want, yep, go ahead.
Anka, but I have a comment. Well, actually, it's kind of a question. Well, first I want to say my eureka moment was really that GI map. Like, that was really helpful. I'm fine, but I'm just thinking about my clients and my customers, right? And so now I feel like from doing this with you that I feel very much like, a little clearer on what you would do with people, and it's awesome. I mean, yeah. I'm like almost like I can't wait for somebody to come to me so I connect them with you, and so thank you for having me on. And so it was really, that was helpful. It's so interesting the way the dots connect.
Yeah.
And so much more than what most people are getting, like you said, from the medical profession. It's what a relief to have somebody give you answers.
Thank you. And I'm
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you tell me what it costs to do the GI map?
Yeah, so the cost for the GI map, there's 2 GI maps you can do. One is the one that I showed you, and that's about $360. It's like $359 and change. And then you do have to work with me to be able to obviously get the interpretation of it. Right. And so it's just my regular fees that are on my website. Everything is listed there. And then the other test has something called a zonulin marker, and zonulin tells you whether or not you have leaky gut. It's a marker for leaky gut. Now, we don't always do the zonulin test. That one's about 420. We don't always do that one because oftentimes in just the one that I showed you, if again, puzzle pieces come together, you can make a really good educated determination and say, yeah, this really looks like leaky gut, especially with your symptomology, some other lifestyle things that you might be having going on. So we can get pretty significantly close. But if I'm suspecting somebody has leaky gut and just not all the pieces are coming together, then I do encourage them to spend the extra, $60 and get the one with zonulin so that we can actually get that marker. Because otherwise, if you just do a zonulin test, it's about $120. So it's cheaper to do it this way in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, thank you. That was so
Awesome.
good.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm going to hop off. I got to go get Matt from the bus.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for being
Bye,
here.
everybody. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye, Mindy.
And Carrie, you're off. I think you're not off mute. And does anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. Can you send me the recording of this so I have
Yes.
it, so I can pass it to people?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. I'm going to actually post it on my website. So as soon as I get it, I'll post it on my website. It'll be where you got your invite.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Awesome. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Anything that is burning in your mind? Yeah, go ahead, Mindy.
This is Mindy. What I had to do to fix my audio is I called my son-in-law. He said, well, why don't you just leave and go back in? I did, and it's fixed it. I have no idea. But anyways, I just wanted to something kind of weird that was happening with me the last couple months was I was having these coughing fits, and there would be a lot of mucus coming up, and I'd like run to the sink, spit it out, and I was having trouble sleeping, and I thought, what the dickens? So I ended up going to the ENT, the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he just, I guess, diagnosed it as silent reflux.
Okay.
Where I wasn't having acid reflux, like it wasn't acid coming up, although one time it was. I take a lot of alfalfa, and I just feel like I have pretty good digestion, but
yep,
this was going on. And so he said silent reflux, and he put me on, and this was stupid, and I didn't really want to do it, but I did it because it was only for 40 days. The medication that they put you on to reduce your stomach acid. It's like,
the PPI.
The generic one, the starts with no. I can never remember the name. So
Zempranol.
Yes. Yeah. So I said, all right, for 40 days, I'm going to do it. Let me see what happens. And oh my gosh, it really helped. So I thought, okay. So at the end of 40 days, I ran out. He had to reschedule the appointment. I never asked for a refill because let me see now that I'm not on it, what happens. So it's slowly going backwards, just slowly. I could tell. Right. Anyway, he sent me to the allergy world of his practice. She did a pulmonary function test, and it showed I had things were not perfect there. So when you talk about medications and the regular, whatever you call them, the A word, the regular doctors,
Yep.
She put me on Spiriva and kept acting like I had asthma. I said, I do not have asthma. I don't know how many times I said that to them. But anyway, I did what she wanted for a little bit. They wanted me to do the asthma medicine albuterol.
Yep.
And I did that a couple of times. I just didn't see that it was doing anything. And then, the guy at the conference, the EWG guy, talked about the PFAS, and he mentioned albuterol, and I thought, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
So I said, this isn't helping. So I went back. She wanted to see me again, and we repeated the pulmonary function test, and it was much better. Normal. It's so I don't know what happened there. But anyways, I thought to myself, okay, if this is I was talking to Dan and he said, well, the doctor said, we do the, ear, nose, and throat said, you do produce a certain amount of mucus a day and we're supposed to digest it. So I thought, something's going on that I'm not digesting that. And I was talking to Dan and he said, well, mucus is amino acid based. And your body digests that mucus and uses the amino acids for something else. I thought, well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I started taking Easy Just because I normally don't take that. I just don't really feel like I have a digestive issue. So ever since I've been taking Easy Just, guess what? I'm fine.
Okay.
No more. There was 2 times where the mucus like blocked my throat and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
That was really scary.
Yeah, that is scary.
Yeah. But ever since I started taking Easy Just, now I've stopped the Spiriva, which I had to pay $200 freaking dollars for a 3-month
Yep.
supply. That was the cheapest way to get it through my mail order. And so I have like 2 more months. I thought I'm not doing it just because I paid for it.
Yep.
But anyways, I just wanted to share that the Easy Just seemed to be the ticket.
Yeah.
And I don't
Good.
know if there's anything else. Not coughing like I was. I'm not running to the sink to spit up all this extra mucus. Sorry,
Yep.
that's gross. But,
Well, yeah, from what we talked about, think about all of those things that are, inflammatory, histamine producers, mast cell activators. It would be interesting to see what your elastase 1 is as far as your mucus and everything that's in there for your enzymes.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy for you that you were able to find that and kind of figure it out and detective your way through it, because it's unfortunate in the allopathic system. Again, it's looking at not why is it there and what's happening, but treat the symptom. And so the PPIs, the stomach acid reducer, that is going to help, but it's going to be temporary because it's at some point, if it's let's say that you're not digesting your foods properly and you have improper digestion and you actually have too little hydrochloric acid, let's say you have excess H. pylori, then at some point that's going to rear its ugly head again and it's going to make it worse. And I had one client who, before he started to see me, he removed all of his teeth. He was in his 30s. He had all of his teeth removed because of acid reflux. And that's the solution that they gave him, was because it was eating away the enamel. But it was not that. It was, so he was on these PPIs. He had kept having to have more and more and more, but they weren't looking at the root cause, which is why I've just become so passionate with root cause resolution. We've got to get to the root cause. We have to keep asking why, even if it's frustrating. We have to keep asking why, because there is an answer somewhere in there.
Yeah. So I know. Who knows if I fixed everything, but I'm so much better. I don't cough all night long. And,
Yeah, no, good. But you know now that if there's something else that goes on, if something else starts, you now have more information and you can become your own puzzle detective, even more so.
Yeah.
So maybe
I'm wondering too if I might have. Well, I know that the allergy doctor did some blood work. She wanted to see if I was allergic to anything, and everything came back perfectly normal. Not allergic to grass, trees, flowers, cat dander, dog, like all the base. We didn't do skin traps, scratch tests. Of course, I felt going there like they always wanted to do more and more just because, they could make some money off of it. But I said, no, I'm not doing a scratch test. But the blood work came back really, really good.
Good. But that's another piece where we look at things functionally differently. Our reference ranges are more narrow, and sometimes things that come back normal on tests are actually not normal. They're just in a reference range that is too broad. And again, when you start to look at symptomology, you start to look at whatever test numbers you have, but you start to look at diet, you start to look at lifestyle. When you group all of those things together, you start getting a whole different picture of what might be happening for that individual. So normal testing in an allopathic world is no longer for me a black and white thing. It's very gray, very, very gray. So
I mean, I didn't really even have any numbers. Everything was like just way below. Like it wasn't even in any reference range.
Right.
It was way low. I mean,
right. And
you know,
that's
it didn't even give me that.
Right. And that can be an issue in itself too. So like you saw on the GI map test, you know, there's certain again, there's certain things that cause histamine release, which is going to cause issues with that whole mucosal lining all the way through your gut. You know, and you're not going to detect that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I said, I think sometimes I do have some food intolerances because all of a sudden I can't eat chocolate. Well, like not all, it's been a little while. Like I get really bad headache if I eat chocolate.
Okay.
And that didn't used to be.
Yeah.
And there was something else.
And that can be a histamine response.
Something else, but when I started taking collagen.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. Garlic. Shackley's garlic.
Yeah.
I could only take one a day.
Okay.
Any more than that, and my husband would complain I would smell.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I started taking collagen, and guess what? I can take 12 garlic a day, and he has no idea.
Good. Good.
So I thought, okay. But I also think, like, when I do my soy protein, a while afterwards, I get really sleepy. And you know, it's like, okay, what's that?
That's a clue.
So anyways, maybe I should do a GMAP, you know?
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Well, if you ever want to come to my website, contact me. I'm happy to do a discovery session with you where, you know, we can have a better idea uniquely for you, whether or not it's something that you know would be of value to you. And then off we go. So yeah.
Okay.
Super.
Really
All
good.
right, Mindy, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Deb, do you have any questions?
No, it's very, very interesting, and especially going over that test thing that I still have to do.
Yeah. So yeah, it is eye-opening how much information you get from these. And I am in a group now of functional practitioners, and just for continued learning purposes, especially for interpretation. In that group, there are several doctors that are in there who have been doing this for years and mentoring a group of us. And it's fascinating looking. I mean, obviously, there's so many different variables of the results that you can see. But it's fascinating to see what the history is for the person, and then what shows up on the test, and then what it is that we start to do for that person. So yeah, it's really, it's been monumental, that. And then, you know, a couple of the other tests that I offer for my clients too, but this one has been monumentally, like, life-changing as far as helping people. So yeah, get her done.
Well, can I tell you what's going on with the whole billing problem, or would you rather I just email, text
Yeah,
it?
no, let's do that offline, because this is
Okay.
gonna be on there.
Oh,
So
that's right. Okay. Okay, I'll do that. I'll let you know about that.
sounds good. All right. Okay, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.